My mom was I think she was in coma, and then she had amnesia.
Olushola Olaleye is a pastor, entrepreneur, and all-round leader with a story that hits deep. He talks about stepping into big responsibilities at a young age, navigating loss, and building a business from scratch, all while keeping faith at the center.
Dad died when I was young. It meant that I had to grow up fast. From the age of 15, I was going from Ilupeju to Ota to process my admission by myself. So I learned independence early enough. And my wife, who isn't the best Yoruba speaking person, he said, Daddy mi ò dúró jẹun ọmọ. The biggest gift that God can ever give us has to be the promise of eternal life. Something bigger and greater than anything we can see or feel.
The Open Up Podcast Season 2 is brought to you by Credit Direct.
So great to have you right here with us. Good to see you again.
Good to see you again.
How have
Amanda,
you been?
For the 10th time. I've been great. I've been good. It's been amazing.
How's your year been so far?
My year has been amazing. It's been amazing in all, but it's been a roller coaster.
I know.
At the heart of it. It's been my best year by a mile, but it's also been a year where I've had some of my worst experiences.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
We need to dig into that. I would really like to dig into that.
Okay.
But before we do, I'm very curious. I mean, I have known you maybe since I was a teenager, but I know that there's even a deeper backstory to that. So I want to take you to a backstory of your earliest memory. Like, what was your earliest memory and what was your childhood like?
My earliest memory of myself was being this precocious kid who was the last one of the house, surrounded by an elder brother, a mom, a dad, and an auntie or two. And from when I was young, they used to offer to pay me to keep quiet for a minute. And trust me, I never won the money. So I was a very, like I said, precocious kid. I think I was light years above my age. I think one of the major contributing factors to that was that I was surrounded by people who were older than I was, which also contributed to the wisdom I was able to glean from them. Just typical experiences. As a young kid, I was that type of guy, bubbly, life of the room, never really the party. Right until the time that my dad died. So I lost my dad when I was 7. It was about 20-something days after my 7th birthday.
Wow.
Yeah.
You remember the exact days?
I remember because my primary school was separated by a fence from my house. So my house and my primary school were separated by a fence. And typical of primary schools growing up, you celebrated your birthdays in front of the entire assembly and then later with your classmates in school. So I remember very vividly, he was a lawyer. And then I think that particular day he was headed out to work. But the assembly time was about 7:40, 8 a.m. in the morning. So he was peeping. Remember, demarcated by a window. My dad was tall. I'm 6'1". I think he was about 6'2". So he peeped through the fence and saw me. So our eyes did fall. Like Yoruba people will say. And then a couple of days after, I remember that himself and my mom were traveling by road across the Niger to an eastern state to felicitate with family friend who was having a celebration of life for a parent. And February 16, 2003, it was a Sunday. And they had dropped us with our grandparents, right? My mom's parents. I remember so clearly. My mom dropped us on Thursday or on Friday and said, oh, they were traveling. So they were going to take a bus. I think it was the era where there weren't so many airports in some states. So they had to go by road. And they were to be back on Sunday. So Sunday afternoon, we waited. Where were they? And if you're very familiar with the GSM era, 2003 was when President Olusegun Obasanjo was supposed to get into his second term. And he was the one who brought GSM in at the time. And very vividly, I can remember SIMs were more expensive than phones then. And very few people had phones, but my mom had Siemens or something like that. So we started to call them. Oh, where are you? We never heard anything. We didn't hear a word. Phones were ringing. I don't think anyone picked. Couldn't really remember so well. My dad, nothing. We didn't hear from them. It was Sunday afternoon into, I think, Sunday evening. Okay, it's okay. There could be traffic on the road. Monday morning came. We didn't hear anything. Tuesday, we didn't hear anything. I think Wednesday, same. And everyone began to panic. What's happening? Now, it's not social media era where if there's an accident in Nasarawa right now, in 10 minutes, that information will be disseminated because news has now become decentralized. Back then, we didn't have the luxury of that. Facebook only came 3 years after or 2 years after. I said all of that to say that we were really worried, and I was young, 7, but I could still remember a couple of things. And then I think after a while, my family got a strange call from a hospital in Shagamu. And that call was from the doctor also. And they said, Olusola Olaleye had been involved in an accident on her way back in the bus with her husband. They didn't even know it was her husband. They couldn't even trace anything. So at that time, everyone began to panic, and then they had to go to Shagamu. At this point, I was oblivious to everything happening because I was young, and my other brother was in school. He was in boarding school in Bado Reaja. Remember? And by the time the family rushed down there to see their daughter on a sick bed, it was ridiculous. Now, I didn't understand everything happening because I wasn't there. But years after, it was a most supernatural occurrence. So my dad died and did not make it to the hospital. I'm told he sat in front with the driver of the commercial vehicle who drove them. My mom was somewhere at the back. For context, my dad had not been a faith person all his life. He was 44 to be 45 that year. He got saved, like you call it, gave his heart to Christ, and believed the gospel on Thursday, the 13th of February. They traveled 14th of February the next day. He dies on 16th. Didn't make it to the hospital. My mom did. But then my mom was I think she was in coma, and then she had amnesia. When she came out of coma, she couldn't remember anything, absolutely anything, and she was fighting for her life. In fact, the doctor had felt everything was game over and it was done. So doctor was struggling. They didn't have any information about this woman. They didn't know anything about her. They didn't hear anything. How do we trace her to her family? Who is she? They didn't even know that was her husband. And then the doctor gets home to his house. And right as he was in his house, trying to freshen up or do stuff. A white figure appears in front of him, and it was like an angel. And the person says, that woman that was rushed into the hospital amongst every other person must not die. Do this, that to ensure that she lives. I just heard this 3 months ago, 4 months ago, when I took my wife to my dad's siblings when we were getting married. And then they told me some of the experiences, coupled with the other ones that I had heard. And then the doctor went back, resuscitated her, and then she lived. But my mom was an engineer. My dad was a lawyer. My mom owned a company, our own company. So when she was resuscitated, I remember they gave her, is it bonbon? There's this this gum. Can't remember the name that had blue, different colors.
Oh yeah.
And then they started chewing it so she could remember things. And the first thing she remembered was 481104, the landline of our company's secretary of the front desk. And that was the number they called that made us know that somewhere, somehow, you know. And that was the beginning of literally everything. My life post my father.
Wow.
Yeah. So, and yeah, so I pretty
That
much
just
lived,
gave me goosebumps. Like,
pretty much lived, yeah, though.
that is such a powerful story. And the fact that you can recollect with so
Yeah,
much
I can.
detailing,
I can.
it's amazing to say. So I know that pre the death of your father, you said you were the kid that you couldn't pay to keep quiet.
Yeah.
So how was this post? How did this change your childhood?
Okay. So I maintained my joy and my happiness. However, it made life a lot more meaningful and purposeful. So for context, my dad was a lawyer, a barrister. I'm sure if he was alive now, he would have been a senior advocate of Nigeria. Was really good at what he did. I remember following him to his chambers back then at number 11 Occasional Street, Lagos Island. I remember what his office looks like till now. I wanted to be a lawyer. Everyone felt this guy would take after his dad. My dad was reserved, but yet a lawyer. Now, I mean, temperament-wise, I was supposed to be the most obvious pick to follow after that, like, because my other brother had no way. So I used to wear his wig when I was young and do all manner. So imagine the first hero you ever knew. I kicked the bucket. So what then is left? Well, I'll put it this way. I'd say God strengthened me early enough, but also I had to build mental fortitude and some form of toughness early on. So when my dad died, I told you I was 7. My mom was in the hospital for months. And they did not tell me or my brother that my dad had died. I'll tell you how I found out. We had to go and see my mom at the hospital in Shagamu. I remember seeing her there. I mean, you know my mom. If you check her head, there's still a cut from now till then. There's still this very swollen wrist, bone, and everything. So then imagine how crazy it was. So I saw my mom lying on the bed. Everybody was there. I said, where's my daddy? I call him Dada. So where's my dad? And then they go, oh, he's fine. You can't see him now. So I didn't really know what was happening, but I didn't get suspicious. And then we had to continue to go to school. So they took us to my dad's elder brother's place within Ijesha, where we used to live. And one day, his son mistakenly said, we don't know your daddy has died, Abby. And then I'm like, what? I run there and they try to kill the whole thing. It's a lie. Until one day, our house help had to take me to my mom's company, and then to go and collect something. And right then and there, I see an obituary of my dad's face, Olaleye, Emmanuel Abiola, aged 45. And immediately she sees that I saw it, she closed my eye. I'm like, yo, too late. So already I was building that fortitude, like, oh, it's happened. No one has told me, but I can see it happen. I can tell. I knew all those things happening then. And then at the point we found out that he had died, I'm 7, my brother is 9.5, about to be 10, and that's it. He's dead, he can't come back. So I told myself, look, you have to snap out of it and and we had a burial for him. Everyone was walking around to pay last respect, crying. I was like the only one who didn't stand up. I said, you should leave me alone. And then my life unfolded. I was in primary 3 when my dad died. But at the age of 7 still, I entered primary 4, thereabouts. And then I had to change school, stayed with my grandparents for a while, those experiences. And that was it. I didn't change, I didn't lose my joy, but I think I became mentally tougher. But I didn't know how much that had affected me until I grew older and realized the effect it had on my mom and my brother. I'll tell you how crazy it is. Up to this very moment, my brother might not admit it, but because of the experience that he has had losing his dad at an early age, he began to build a kind of wall, not towards being empathic to other people. I'm a family of empaths. We're all empathic. In fact, overly empathic, overly generous. And sometimes it's crazy because it could even ruin you in business because you just dash every money you see. But it made him build a wall where no matter the news that he hears that might be terrible or anything, he's expecting it. And that's a problem, a very serious problem. So it's almost as if he grew up living his life anticipating that he could just hear a sad story somewhere, hear this somehow, and because in his mind, what can beat or topple the death of your father at a young age? So it kind of, when you build mental fortitude a little bit too early, it also has an adverse effect.
I can imagine.
It's some kind of grief that when you experience so early, puts your boundaries on a particular pedestal where, like, no matter what happens, they can't topple that, so I'm good. So I noticed that with him. I noticed up until even recent, So I can't really go into too many stories, but these things do that to you.
Long term.
Long term. But overall, I'm grateful for community, grateful for family, because our aunties were close by, uncles were close by. And thankfully that. But growing up without a father within your home meant that my mom had to pull her weight in every regard. And which is one of the reasons I still cut her some slack generally, because she did everything. In fact, I have an auntie who was almost like my mom because my mom had to become like my dad. So the auntie stayed with us, was always there with us, close by. My mom had to do all the hustles. Imagine an engineer whose company, right after her husband's demise, had to fold up 1 or 2 years after because of electrical issues and theft from employees. I'm talking a very big company. For context, you've been to my office. It's a 1-story building. We use up and down. My mom's company was 3 times bigger. Had to come all down, and then she had to go into catering. But in every single thing, one of the things I also learned, which I think is the most important thing, is my mom is arguably my biggest mirror of possibility because she displayed tenacity. Imagine being an engineer married to a lawyer. We were not doing badly, I must say. It's just recently I realized that all the cars I knew growing up were all Benz. My dad didn't drive a car that wasn't Benz. He drove G-Wagons. He did stuff. We had resources. But then, as we were growing up, it didn't dawn on me until now how that my mom transitioned from owning a company, an engineering company, to going into catering full-time. And when she was still finding her foot around in catering, when we changed houses, she had to sell recharge cards. And then Indomie. And then this and then that, all through so we could get through school. In hindsight, it's ridiculous. But it taught me something, that many times you have to do what you have to do to be able to do what you want to do.
That's a great takeaway.
Honestly, it is.
And a very powerful story, like I said. Let's accelerate further into this childhood, or maybe when you say someone's in university, is the person still a child?
Oh no.
Maybe semi-adult.
I was a bit of a child in university.
In
though.
university.
A bit. I mean, maybe when you use chronological age, I got to university at the age of 15.
Okay. So you were still a teenager at the point. So let's go into happier times. I know you went to Covenant University.
Yeah, let's go to happier times.
I know you finished with the first class,
I
the
think
first in your department to do that.
Okay, I think I was first male in department history. Yeah, the first male in the department history to do that.
Okay, so let's talk about going to school at 15, being a first class graduate, studying sociology. Yeah, so let's talk about that. Why sociology? I mean, you said earlier I thought you would be a lawyer, so why sociology?
Okay, so first and foremost, I love sociology. If there was ever anything like incarnation, which there isn't, and I come back to the world again, I'll be a sociologist one more time. I think it positions you to be a generalist because you just seem to know something about pretty much everything. So, but how the university thing, how it started. So I went to Baptist Academy of Anikoro. Seems like it's a school familiar to you.
Of course.
And when I was done with BA, I had wanted to go to Obafemi Awolowo University to study law, just like my dad did. But politicking upon politicking. I mean, who do you know anyone? This is very crazy. So, Covenant University was my second choice school. It was ideally my first choice university, but they didn't study law there. And the whole law thing, I liked it, but I didn't see it like a do or die or do or bust. So when I applied to Covenant University, I think I was putting in for maybe mass comm or so, and then I got sociology. Although I got an admission to Landmark University also, for my desired course. But I said, you know what, I like Covenant University. Let's do CU. So I get into CU, and then I'm to study sociology. I'll be frank. Prior to that time, I didn't really know what sociology was. But then when you hear sociology, the first thing that comes to your mind is, social studies. And that was it. I started year one, I was 15. By my second semester, I clocked 16, thereabouts. And then, by still first semester, I was 16. And then that was it. I was studying sociology. It was incredible. I began to learn a lot of things. More importantly for me, it wasn't about the course of study. When people make crazy statements like school is scam, you have to define your context because it isn't. The most important take homes from school is actually not necessarily the curriculum, but the fact that as you move from curricula to curricula and you meet person to person, from classroom to classroom and environment to environment, the exposure is what truly transforms your life. So the most important thing about school for me wasn't necessarily what we learned in classroom, was that it exposed my mind to a wider array of things. So sociology was incredible for me. In fact, at the end of my first year, I think I was already top of my class. So I could have actually changed or swapped to mass comm or do stuff, but I was enjoying the ride. I said, let me have it, and it was great. And then it was also on campus that I honed several of my skills. So first and foremost, I used to be in drama unit. I used to be very. I was always been an actor from when I was young. So I used to be in drama. I'm sure some people are surprised, like you, how, and then I even ended up heading the script team of Covenant University Theatre Group. So I was in charge of directing, and then I think at some point I was probably one of the most prominent actors, if not the most prominent. I was acting, man. So all these things were great, but the environment helped me because also it was in Covenant University that I really had my proper foray into school politics. I'd been head boy in primary school. In secondary school, I was social prefect. Remember?
I actually remember. So for context, I wouldn't say went to the same school, but we went to the same school.
He went to the same school and did not go to the same school.
Exactly. So I went to Baptist Girls Academy, and he went to Baptist Academy. So there's all girls, all boys, separated by a boy. So yeah.
And for context, Amanda was highly sought after. I'm sure I'll give your husband the full gist one day. So there was that. I used to be social prefect, and then right after that, I got into school, then became involved in department politics. I became vice president of the association at the age of 17. It was unprecedented, like, and I became president in my year 3, not even year 4. And then it was good. And then, so I moved from that to to being, I don't want to use the word political godfather, because I'm not against the word godfatherism if it is done right and done well, and not, crumbling other people's ambitions. But right after I was done serving as president, the next president was like my peak because I don't go, but obviously he was willing, and then I think he contested against someone and then he won without much of my. So these things were things that school helped me build and hone, and it also helped me to do so many things excellently at the same time, and just be me to the full extent of my potential. And that's why when today people see me and say, "Oh, how do you, Pastor, how do you, you're an entrepreneur, you own this business, this one, that one, you still content create, you speak, you facilitate trainings, you consult, you coach HNIs, how do you do it?" I'm like, I don't really think many times I break a sweat because I've done stuff similar in that small way back at school.
I've heard a lot about Covenant University, that they breed a special people that are very excellent. Do you think that there's a Covenant factor? Covenant University factor?
Absolutely. So the apple doesn't fall far from the tree. An average Covenant University graduate stands out. Now imagine being a Covenant University graduate that truly applied himself on campus. Just imagine. So being this precocious kid and being this smart person pretty much all my life, when I got to Covenant University, he was like a ground that took me from 40%, took me up to 85, 90.
By the time they watch this video, admission is going to be like times
it's
times 100.
And to be honest, that's why it's the best university in the country. Times higher.
If you do say so yourself.
The latest ranking reveals it.
Okay.
I'll be frank with you. Covenant University students have the highest employability rate. Go and ask any human resource professional in the country. They stand out. They dress well, they speak well, they are really intelligent, and so many more things. And in the context of morality and character, they really stand strong in most cases. I'm not saying all, but I'm saying most.
Well, I completely, partially agree with you. Because backup tries too. But let's talk, before we move on to another conversation pointer, let's play a little game. I know earlier you mentioned that you're a pastor. Yes, I know that you heard, are you still in CCI Ago?
Yes.
All right, so you heard CCI Ago. So we're doing a game, and it's called Scriptural or Fiction. Okay? And I'm going to read a quote for you. You're going to tell me if it's fiction or it's actually in the Bible.
Wahala.
Are you ready?
You are setting up, Pastor.
No, I'll give you a scriptural game.
Jesus is it depends on where you're bringing it out from. Are you bringing it out for some deep parts in the book of Lamentations?
No, it's very simple. It's very
just
simple.
Easy, no mind. Bring it on. Let's go.
Okay, the first quote is, "He who fetches water is blessed, but he who waits drinks last." Is that scriptural or fiction?
He who fetches water is blessed,
but he who waits.
That's scriptural. Wait.
Drinks last.
He who waits drinks last. That should be book of Proverbs or Ecclesiastes.
Which one?
But my question is, he who fetches water is blessed, but he who waits drinks last. Maybe me, I've been reading it in a different translation. That sounds really tricky.
Is it fiction or scripture?
Is it fiction or scripture? That's weird. It sounds familiar. But I can't really pin my eye and say I've heard that exact line. So sounds fiction.
That's correct. Who drinks last? No, it's not anywhere in the Bible.
Yeah, exactly. So the thing is, what could have confused me could have actually been maybe the translation you might have used. Because when you read through the works in the book of Proverbs and even Ecclesiastes, there are some, how do I give an expression? So maybe like there are some texts that when you read in the KJV,
It's
appears a
different.
party. That's like KJV English. Do you get my point?
Mm-hmm.
But then I try not to read the Old Testament in KJV. I prefer to use ESV or NLT or NIV.
Or NIV.
Those are my major. So
Uh-huh.
I was saying there's a possibility that what I might have imbibed in NIV or NLT could have been different, and that sounds like KJV English. So yeah, it's not.
You're correct. Okay, so my second quote is, "He who finds a wife finds a good thing."
Things favor from the Lord. Yeah, scriptural.
That was an easy one. The third one is, "God no go shame us."
Oh wow, that sounds so scriptural. That sounds like Apostle Paul speaking to the church at Philippi, reminding them, telling them that when Jesus stripped himself of deity and humbled himself to the cross, for the joy that was set before him, he was doing so God will not shame us, the beloved, and his saints that he was going to
Yeah.
save by reason of the redemptive sacrifice of Jesus. So that sounds so scriptural, just that there was no pidgin language. So fiction.
Do you know what? It's fictional, but you just actually justified why it's in the Bible.
God no go shame us.
All right, I think I'm going to be saying that. The joy of the Lord is my strength.
He gives me living water and I thirst no more.
So I guess that's my answer, right?
Yep, that's it.
Hi, everyone. I have some exciting news. I'm here to introduce to you our sponsors for the Open Up Season 2 podcast, and they are Credit Direct. What I love most about them is they aren't just numbers people. They're actually intentional about transforming the financial journeys of people and businesses, helping them to live, to grow, and to succeed. They have spent the last 17 years redefining how Nigerians access financial solutions, empowering millions of people along the way. They are fully licensed by the Central Bank of Nigeria, and they're all about providing simpler, smarter ways of achieving financial independence, which is something that we champion right here on the Open Up podcast. Talking about the Open Up podcast, we are all about breaking barriers mentally, transforming lives, and seizing opportunities. And that is what Credit Direct does for its customers. Talk about alignment. From flexible credit options for your immediate needs, to buy now, pay later that help you manage payments stress-free, to even a fund management solution that makes your money work harder for you, earning up to 21% interest per annum. My mind is blown. You want to know more? Check out their website link in the description below. You have to check them out. Check them out, okay? Let's improve our lives this year. Now, back to the episode. All right, so moving back into our conversation. Hope you enjoyed a little game.
I did.
But just going to jump into, I know a lot of people know you as an entrepreneur, business mogul, and all of that. But I know you just got married. Yeah, I was present at the wedding. So beautiful, by the way. But I'm not going to talk about the marriage part. I'm going to talk about the young, unmarried part that was there for like forever, that we're wondering like when, But when I think about how you were heading Celebration Church, I go for, I don't know how long has it been?
I go for almost 2 years now.
2 years.
And then Ikeja for, I'm sorry, I go for almost 2 years and Ife for a year.
So that's 3 years pastoring a church as a young, unmarried pastor. How was that like?
Amanda, this part you are treading. So if you had said, how was that pastoring the church? Is a different answer. But is it as an unmarried pastor?
So, young and good looking too.
I try once in a while. So I put it this way. Pastoring is an amazing experience. However, I think for almost every hat that I wear and everything that God helps me succeed at, I think the most tasking and perhaps still the most beautiful is pastoring. Pastoring is crazy. And I know a lot of people don't talk about it. I don't think any vocation or career path needs more therapy than being a pastor. A pastor is expected to have solutions to all problems of people in different ramifications, and yet have no problems of their own that need solving. You're expected to be there for people in every single moment. You're expected to jump up and rejoice with a church member who just got delivered of a baby after 10 years of barrenness. And in the same vein, the next second, you're expected to cry and mourn with someone who just lost a parent. You're expected to be financially available to everyone, but have no financial needs of your own. You're expected to pray for everyone while begging people to once in a while put you in their prayers. So pastoring is tough, but blessed at the same time. It's the number one career in the world that gives and bears eternal fruits, and whose results transcend earthly gain. That's that. So it's blessed. Yes, I must say that. So that's being a pastor. Then pastoring a church itself has been an amazing experience, but it has also been quite challenging in and of itself, because not only with the preparation time, but also a lot of pastoring work is mental. It's quite hard to compartmentalize. Yesterday, I was just trying to catch a bit of a breather, and I was just, 2 days ago, I was just in my room, was trying to pray a bit, was still dragging my feet around it, trying to do a number of things, and right then and there, I remember that a church member had told me that his mom was in coma. So immediately, you move into full gear, boom, you're praying. Next minute, work comes, takes your mind away. The next minute, something superimposes on that, and it's just roller coaster. And it takes God to steady your mind. So that's that. You have to put in a lot of effort into preparing for sermons, put a lot of effort into showing up for church members. When people walk up to you, they expect that the last story that they narrated to you about their lives is front of your mind and top of your mind. Pastor cannot have another work that he's doing apart from listening to my cry. I mean, so there's that. Now imagine that as a young chap who has 1,000,001 other things he's doing. Embedded in my work is like 7 careers or 8 careers. And add pastoring to that. So pastoring a branch has been really unique. But pastoring as a single guy, hey, been quite interesting. Just before we started, myself, yourself, and we're talking about my ring. And I've been wearing a ring for like 5 years. Not this one, obviously. I'm newly married. On behalf of myself and my wife and I, any small thing, my wife and I. If I wake up, thank you, Jesus, on behalf of my wife and I. So I've been wearing a ring for like a while. Partially, one of the reasons I wear the ring is, first and foremost, I love wearing rings. But secondly, it's also to give people an impression that, he's not in the market and it's not available. So, but obviously, as strange as it gets, is that for some people, even when you wear the ring, instead of repelling people, it attracts them. This is strange. Very strange. I won't say really in church. I mean, hopefully. But one thing you must also learn is that not everybody you see in church is churchy. Or not everybody you see in church. I always crack this joke like it's popular. Church is like a hospital. Not everybody's responding to treatment. So there's that. But as a single person, obviously, and I don't think there's anything bad in young ladies in church aspiring to marry a pastor.
I love it.
Or marry their pastor. I don't see anything bad in that. Absolutely nothing bad in that. But for some people, the attraction is to the authority, not necessarily to the person. Women naturally like people in positions of authority. We must be honest. The same way men like pretty women and so many more things. For example, I like an ambitious woman, like my wife is. For many ladies, they're naturally attracted to ambition. A man who has a clear sight of where he's headed. So I could see that obviously. You get into interactions with people. Some try to get so close. One of the very first things that I had to put in place from the beginning was boundaries. People who live with me and know me know that I have very strict boundaries. very strict boundaries. Till date, I probably have just 2 to 3 female friends that I can put in the category of close. You know, you've been one of them for years and you knew that time. You knew everything. All my friends know themselves. Everybody knows who they are and where they come from. It's very important.
They
It
know
is
their
because
positioning.
one of the things that helps you, stay. I'll put it this way: one of the biggest disservice you can do to yourself is to trust yourself a little bit too much. And one thing that discipline helps you do is that it helps you put in place boundaries. And boundaries are not there for your strongest moments; they are there for your weakest days.
Okay. I hear you.
On your strongest days, no matter how many women are in the same house with you, you're good. On your weakest days, even a woman you are not naturally attracted to might look like the biggest damsel and the most beautiful woman in the world to you. Boundaries help you. You set them on your strongest days ahead of your weakest days. So for me, boundaries were always clear. The first church I was pastoring was a young church in Ile-Ife. 90% of the student of the church membership were students. Now imagine, there was that. They were the ones who wanted to get so close to pastor. My church admin already knew that pastor has put those boundaries. If a church admin is coming to come and drop something for me, she waits outside. I open the door and I pick it up and she goes back. I cannot be in the same room with a woman that is not my wife. Or a sibling or a family member, or at worst case scenario, a family friend, for more than 5-10 minutes. These are rules and boundaries that must be put in place. So there are things like that and things you have to be clear on. And it's because people read signals from afar. Some try, but they know it doesn't have our time. And let me be clear, not everyone who tries to come close to you is coming close to you because they want both of you to sing together. Some have genuine intentions, but I just wasn't interested. Because I've been in a relationship for 3 years, for example, and it was offline. No one knew. I mean, you people knew. My friends knew, but a lot of people did not know. And then
Yeah.
imagine that. So there were stuff like that. So being a single pastor was quite an interesting one. I think I loved it so much because the boundaries were already in place. I have other rules like you can't call me after 9 o'clock as a lady, and I won't call you after 9 o'clock as a lady. First and foremost, I'm too busy to even have a call with you in the first place and stuff. So you also have basic rules. Actually, it was really interesting. I think it was blissful, and glory to God. I mean, he's been amazing, and I must say scandal free, because by the grace of God, though, that will never happen in Jesus' name. And so stuff like that. So you just have to ensure that you don't give the devil any room, because when you give him an inch, he takes a mile. And also you must make sure that you are loud to church members. There was a time I wasn't taking female mentees. Oh yes, the Lord bless you, the Lord be with you. I just wasn't in that mood.
Thank you so much.
God bless you.
I like that. So a lot of boundaries were in place. Let's move into entrepreneurship. Right. Let's move into that. I don't even know where to start this conversation because
this conversation was my getaway from entrepreneurship. Oh my God.
Okay, so we won't talk about it.
Oh,
So we're not going so we have angles we're talking about it from, right? No, because even I am very confused. There's Trips Clothing. There's what's the food brand called again?
How many of them? Okay, so there's Buy Soups, there's Lagos Smoky Jollof.
There's Buy Soups, there's Smoky Jollof, there's Trips Clothing. There's a consultancy for people. Yeah, I'm not even going to go into that, like I said.
Many expressions.
But I know with one you're working with your mom.
Oh yeah, that.
Yes.
Yeah. My mom. Like I said earlier, my mom has been a caterer for years. It was about money and rice money that sent me to school. My mom was the she managed restaurants for MTN, RT Briscoe, Keystone, many of the big shots. She was one morning and manning the restaurant, and obviously she does love outdoor catering and a lot. So yeah, and at some point in life, I found a way to commercialize a part of our enterprise, and then I was able to use our expertise to solve some food problems, which birthed the businesses. One or two businesses I'm talking about. So yes, that's my business.
So partner. Is she a business partner?
Yeah, she is.
How's that like working with your mom?
It's cute. So being raised by a widow meant that I had to grow up fast so I could become a husband. So myself and my brother, I mean, at the age of 16, I was already a man. 15, I was already a man. The way my mom raised me, it was as though she was raising us for a time as this. Because from the age of 15, I was going from Ilupeju to Ota to process my admission by myself. She tried at the initial stages. The other ones, you will go by yourself. Myself and my friend will journey, enter bus, go to Oshodi, enter, come back, we're fine. From when I was like 10, 9, 10, 11, can't remember. After my mom closed down our company, we had privilege when we were young. We had driver, we had everything. By the time her car spoiled, she couldn't repair it, this one, that one. Myself and my brother had to start entering bus to school by ourselves, to and fro. He would lap me, and then we'll come home by ourselves. So I learned independence early enough, which meant that you had to grow up really fast. And my auntie will always tell us, Shola, Toby, Emma Farare, Emma Baba. It means, Toby, Shola, don't compare yourself to your friends. You don't have a father. So we learned early. And then what all of those experiences did is that they began to shape me. So how has it been working with my mom is that she was able, one of the things is you must learn to be, independence is not something that you come to all of a sudden. Your parents can see the patterns. So if at the age of 19, I was done with university, 20, was done with NYSC. When I was done with school, my mom stopped sending me money.
Okay.
Which means that now, boy, you're going to have to do some hustle. So I was selling toast bread during NYSC.
What? You were selling toast bread?
I was lecturing. All first actually had to lecture. I went to Akwa Ibom, which, by the way, if I was not from Malaysia, I would love to have been an Akwa Ibom. They're the most amazing people. I love them to a fault. I did my NYC in a village called Insidibom in Akwa Ibom. So I was lecturing. Then they paid me 8.5 as a lecturer. It was 19.8. Combined everything, was doing stuff. So the money was not really enough. And I was also a fellowship leader. I was papa of a particular subsequent.
You were papa?
Yes, I was papa. So papa, so now called it Papa Turkey. That was the name of the toast business, Papa Turkey Enterprise. So I was selling toast and everything. So now I get back.
I'm sorry for laughing. Sorry.
You laugh my husband.
I'm sorry.
So I get back, and then my mom had been doing catering for a long time. But you see, one of the things your parents pay you for is the exposure that you get, and you must use that exposure to favor them in the future. My mom is not digitally inclined. I mean, very educated, smart woman. She's answer my comprehensive. She teach me comprehension, answer my assignment from when I was in secondary school. She was that smart, but she's not in the world of social media. She couldn't leverage cost-effective strategies to position one's business, in the digital landscape. So I knew all those things. So I said, you know what, let's work. So the first thing was during COVID-ish, I'm like, what's happening here? Fashion, the fashion again. People know they go out. So I'm like, but I know 1 or 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 bachelors that have been put in their homes where now they can no longer go out to the fast food around them. We can deliver food to them in their house in their own convenience. I called my mom up. I'll never forget. Alpha, let's deal. I said, no, well, I'll bring the deal.
Wait, you talk to your mom like that? How far, mom?
It's not, I don't call her mom, I call her mama. So it's Yashola. Just pick her, hello, Alpha, Kilo Shele. Kilo Shele, Kilo Aribo. And then we just yarn. My mom is my guy. So we just talk. And also, I'm quite stern as a businessman, particularly with her. So my mom, because I see one of the videos where I talked about it, that I was raised by an overly empathic mother. She would give a last penny to a stranger. My brother is the same person, can lend anybody money. I also caught that bug, caught that good virus. I took it into business until my fingers got burnt. So my mom had a history of people stealing from her because she was too nice, too open. Let me give you for context. My mom's not just a driver, not just an average person working with my mom knows her ATM password.
Wow.
I'm telling you, my mother. So if I'm setting up business with you, you're not going to do that one around me. Everything will be accounted for. Everything will be. My mom is a street business person. Does not have time for all those structure, this one. So me, I'm stern. So she has a role. She's on salary. I'm not joking. She's on this, she's on that. There's cuts, there's this. So we have different ways we manipulate it. But she knows that I'm I build a team around her because I make sure that our weaknesses are covered, by the strengths of other people who are great in other area. But she focuses on what she's fantastic at. So help us with recipe, help us give directions to the other chefs, and we're good. And that's it. It's been very amazing.
Wow. Uh, that sounds like a proper business.
Oh yes.
You put a proper structure
Oh,
to it.
we're not playing here.
We're not playing
We're not
you.
joking. I'm not joking.
So now let's talk about something you obviously would really love.
What's that?
Love.
Manchester United. Oh,
Uh,
love. Oh, love. I
wow.
love love. I thought it was Man U.
Wait.
I thought it was Man
I
U.
need to explore what just happened.
Oh, I thought it was Man
Is
U.
football above love?
I never said that. We said something you really love. I thought it was Manchester United.
Okay, before we talk about love, let's even talk about this football.
Oh my
I'm happy you brought it up. I was trying to cut you some slack, but
Yes.
I watch all these little snippets of you, Paste, PK.
Yeah,
You know,
Pastor loves football too.
Yeah.
Although he has abandoned us because Barca started messing up. Then he now ran and said he was a Messi fan. Since Messi is no longer in Barca, he's done.
The only question I have for you, what's coming up? Which of the football leagues are coming up? What's coming up?
Okay, right now,
Yes.
I don't know what's happening now.
To you?
To me.
No,
Okay,
in football.
Manchester United is playing today by 9 p.m.
Okay.
That's what's happening.
So Manchester is playing by 9 p.m. today.
Not Manchester United.
Oh, sorry.
Amanda Kaja.
Manchester United
Yes.
is playing by 9 p.m.
Yes.
today. And Pastor calls you
Okay.
and says that we need you to preach a service by 9 p.m. today.
So first and foremost, I must be very clear.
Yeah.
I love football so much. Like I'm an avid football fan.
Yeah.
I'll put it for you in context. I don't have many hobbies. The only hobbies I have are centered around football, watching football and playing FIFA. And I'm headed somewhere. But there are some things that gain ascendancy above football. The only thing I can miss a Manchester United match for is God. And maybe my wife needs me, or my mom needs me, or a close friend is doing something I cannot wait. I'll put it for you in context. This year's recruit camp, Man U is playing on the first night. It pained me, but a boot camp goes above it. So when I started dating my wife, love of my life, I told her something. It was a joke, but I said, see, in this life, 4 things are constant. My love for Manchester United, my love for Dodo, my love for Chief Commander Ebenezer Obi, and my love for you. I said, but you must understand that my love for you and for close family and close friends is so important. But you see, my love for Manchester United, don't touch it. I said, see, you can leave me in this house for 10 years. I will not step out of the house. Just give me football match. Give me Dodo. Give me Greek yogurt and give me FIFA. I'm fine. Along with my Bible and educational materials and things that I can binge on. So you know what my babe does now? If she calls me when we're dating, she called because she was outside of the country doing a master's. She calls me and Man U is playing. She said, oh, sorry, let me leave you your side chick. I said, God bless you. God bless you. She doesn't try. Man U, she doesn't try it. If she knows I have match, nothing. Let me put it for you in context. I can turn down a speaking engagement anytime Man U is playing. You will move it though. You will move it. You will move this. Why?
So those, I'm very busy. Is that you want to watch match?
No, Abba, it's just 2 hours now. No, Abba, it's just 2 hours like a week. But you must respect Manchester United. I've accepted a few but maybe because I don't know Man U.
If you now go for that speaking engagement, we frowning.
But I will not be checking scores. In fact, I'll be speaking. This happened a number of times. I'll be speaking Man U, but I'm like, okay, guys, I love you so much. I'm here. Manchester United is fine. They will all laugh. I will actually joke about it. I'm just engaged like an hour. So I'll miss one half and watch the other one. So, so Manchester United, I don't play with it. I don't play with Man U.
Wow. I don't even know what to say. I don't know I can't relate. Yeah. I used to wonder what's messy in football, but I'm not even going to ask
don't
you
go there.
because that conversation is going to be 10 hours
don't go there.
or longer. So I'm just going to move back to love. Move back to the other types of love.
Okay, yes.
Let's talk about
love.
Yes. The love of your life.
Oh,
your
man,
wife.
Stop it.
Your missing rib.
Okay.
Let's talk about that. I mean, you said that you had so many boundaries in place and how you had to have this because you're young, you're married, you're a pastor, you were doing well, you were succeeding. And then there's this woman that captures your attention for over 3 years, and she's not even in the country. She's not close proximity. She's not following to the meetings, but she somehow manages to steal your heart, even though she's miles away. What was the reasoning behind this?
So when we started dating, she wasn't miles away. She was in Lagos.
Okay.
And after we started dating, she had to go for a master's in pastoral in the UK. But I love her to bits. I think one of the main things that got to me about her was I love me a woman who's ambitious, who's got stuff on her plate. Her life mustn't revolve around mine. So yeah, my wife when I met her, it was a mutual friend who told me about her. I'm like, okay. And then I had been single for 3 years tops. I can't remember. And then he laughed that day and told me, he said, bro, about 2 to 3 years. And he said, bro, I found somebody for you. I said, who? And then, very funny guy. So he listed some characteristics that he knows that I like, which I can't say in public. I'm a man
I
of
think
God.
I know one of them. Moving on. I caught you right.
Started, it was like, oh, and really smart girl. I was like, oh yeah, she's first class like you too. I said, okay, she's this, she's. I really love that. And we went on our very first date. It was just smooth sailing from then on. And then she called her friend and said, I found my husband. And I'm like, so I found out later, but it was really good. Match made in heaven. And ever since I met her, I mean, I never thought of being any other person. Like, it couldn't have been any other person. It just had to be her. So she's kind, amazing, generous, driven, beautiful, curvy. Sorry. Anyways.
That is so. For context, I didn't want to say it earlier, but see that thing that I found
Amanda,
for you.
Amanda,
See, the Shola I know.
Amanda.
If he wants to describe a woman, say, is it like the,
Amanda.
am I lying?
Man shall not live by
by this
man shall not
alone?
live and the word alone. Sometimes God.
I wanted to cover you, but you mentioned it, so it's
Amanda,
okay.
no,
Yeah, Pastor Shola likes good
she
things.
loves the Lord. That's what
She loves the
attracted me.
Lord.
That's what attracted me. I'm sure.
Yeah.
As I saw her, I
And
could
she has
tell
a
that
very
she loves.
bright future behind her.
Yes, and a glorious past and a wonderful future.
Wow.
That's great.
All right. If you know, you know. Moving on to something not as exciting as this. I remember that based on the privilege of being, I hope I'm still in your close friend circle.
Before.
Yeah, based on that, I know that about 2-3 months ago.
Yeah.
When I was asking you, how's everything going? How's the planning? And you're like, man, Amanda, we just found out that you actually just wrote, my babe lost her dad. And I'm thinking, wow, this is the most horrible timing there could be. And wondering how, at the time I couldn't ask, but wondering how it affected that. And of course, very happy that we're talking about it in the past because you got married, you're happy now and all. But how was that moment for you? Did it stop the wedding planning? How did that shake you? How did that affect you? How did it affect both of you?
So, 2 months to my wedding. Okay, let me take a breather. So, 2 months to our wedding, my wife lost her dad, and it was a very crazy moment. So he had been battling an ailment for a while, and began to degenerate, and things were deteriorating, and it was on life support at the hospital. And on the day that he died, we had been with him throughout the morning. I'd gone home to quickly freshen up to go back. And then her mom gets a call. We have to come now because they don't want him to die without us being there. And so we start rushing. And when we get to the hospital, my babe and her mom are the only two people allowed to go into the ICU. And then they get there, and they were there for a while. 2 minutes, 5 minutes, 7 minutes. And then my wife comes out from the ICU, and then she almost collapses at the hallway. Waiting at the corridor were myself and a couple of their family members. So I'm holding different people at the same time. his sisters, my mother-in-law's sisters, just holding, trying to make people not cry, whereas I was gone for deeper reasons. So all I could see with the anguish in my wife's eye was that she looked up to me and said, "Go inside." So when she was leaving the ICU, found out that her dad was dead, she was trying to pray, she and her mom, to bring him back to life. And then she looked at the doctor and said, "If I go out, can somebody come inside?" Now, that wasn't somebody come inside as, can my fiancé come inside? It was, can someone that I know that is a man of God come inside and raise my dad from the dead? Such was our confidence that if he goes, so I wasn't entering as her fiance. I was entering as fiance and pastor. And this is because she had seen me, through the power of God, heal people. She had seen me do all manner in our relationship. She had heard. And so she was quite positive. I don't even know if it's the last straw of the dice and the last straw, something could happen. And so I went into the ICU. The moment I walked in, I was gone. Till now, sometimes I look back and I still beat myself up, but I was gone. I knew he was gone. Like he was gone. So he had died before we got to the hospital. But spiritually, I didn't have any signal or iota of faith whatsoever to even bring him back up. So I did one or two, pray, did stuff, but I just knew there was no coming back. But at that moment, we refer to God's word, that says we don't mourn like they who have no hope, particularly when a believer dies, because you will see him again. Because trust me, he was, he had his faith in Christ and it was amazing. But why that moment? And why him at that time of his life? He had been battling with that ailment, I think, even before we started dating. Now, we're getting married in October. He dies August. And my wife, who isn't the best Yoruba speaking person, made a statement that night and almost got me in tears. He said, "Daddy mi ò dúró jẹun ọmọ." That means my dad didn't wait to eat the fruit of his labor, because I knew the plans that she had for him. I knew what she wanted to do. I knew stuff. And she looked and said, "Who will walk me down the aisle?" I was like, what's this? So here was I, the guy who was supposed to, help internalize the word of God and faith into her and all of those things. I was just looking at her. And whether you like it or not, God's word remains true, which is that through the good and the bad, God remains faithful. And an event, no matter how grievous it is, will never take away or reduce the goodness of God, because the height of his goodness was displayed in salvation. Yes. But at that moment, the solution and what you can do to a person who is really grieving is not to exegete and be speaking plenty grammar and English and teaching them the word at that time. Sometimes the solution is to just let them cry in your arms. I remember I was teary in the hospital because I was consoling so many people. I had to rush off to cry. I called my auntie who's in the UK and I told her about it. She heard me cry. She said, "Shola, don't cry, don't cry, don't cry, don't cry. You have to be strong." And I had to rush and go and keep on being strong, but it was getting to me. But here's the drill. I didn't know how deep that moment was, because shortly after his death, we had to console everybody. his sisters, his wife. My wife is second child. Our eldest sister was actually in transit en route Nigeria from Manchester. We tried to keep the news away from her, but someone broke it to her when she was midway the journey. Imagine, because they didn't tell her that her dad was in the hospital. It was terrible. And they had a younger sister. So we had to be there for the family and everything. And because so many people were there, it was with the goal that they will move on so fast and try and just make things heal. So they had to bury him. They buried him, and then we said he would have wanted the wedding to go on. And so many things were already in place. Let the wedding move on. And so the wedding came so fast. So she hadn't had all the time in the world to successfully process her thoughts. But there was one part of her mind there, doubting a little bit. One was crying a little bit. It was roller coaster of emotions, and some emotions that were not properly dealt with because she had to move on so fast. So it was there some way, somehow. Affected her a little bit, was making her shake a little bit. And then after we got married, something very funny happened. On one Saturday morning, typical of me, I go, "Hey babe, you're up. Oh yeah, go and pray." I was trying to pray in the sitting room. Yeah, we're done here prayed. Supposed to pray privately, and then we'll just come and wrap up the prayers together. And then I noticed she was dragging her feet a little bit. Go and pray. She was pressing her phone and was a bit distracted. And then I go back in again. "Why are you not praying?" And then I just got a bit pissed and I walked out of the room. And she was actually trying, but she was struggling a little bit and she was distracted. And then I got back into the room in a bit to de-escalate things and say, "Okay, what's happening?" And right as she was about to explain, she burst into tears. That pain, the hurt, the residue of everything, because things were happening so fast, she hadn't processed many things. She had many questions to ask God. And it's okay. As a pastor, you must be comfortable with the fact that people have different stages and levels of grief. And while me, I was aiming after building intimacy with God, she wasn't in that intimacy phase because she wanted to ask the man up there questions. How come I prayed for my dad fervently for 3 years and he still died? How come? And so she cried for a long time. And the best thing I could do was just console her. And I'm just saying it's okay. It's okay sometimes to have questions. And even though the answers might be known by someone right beside you, but it is not the answer you need. And then that day, I prayed to God and I said, "God, comfort her in a way that only you can." That's how crazy it's been.
That sounds very intense. I think my final question to wrap up this mind-blowing interview, I have to say, is you said something. You can be beside someone who knows the answers, but that's not the right time to say those answers. And so, because on this podcast is, like I say, it's a God-inspired podcast. And my question would be, what is that God encounter that happened to you personally that has made you understand that through life's ups and downs, through the good, the bad, the ugly, there is a God who loves me. There is a God who cares. There's a God who I serve, and my faith is unwavered. What would you say that encounter was for you that was your final touch?
I feel like for me, it's never really been a case of one encounter that did it. It's always been a series of encounters. So I think one of the things that God has been using to teach me has been that He has been exposing more and more to me the futility of human effort in life. And no matter how accomplished we become, no matter how great and magnificent we feel or become, no matter how magnanimous our achievements ever are, it's still all vanity. Amanda, it is still all vanity. And one thing I didn't tell you, because I don't even know if I mentioned it to you, I couldn't remember what happened. You were preparing for your wedding, and it was a very roller coaster period for me too. Shortly before your wedding, in April, my grandpa died.
Oh my goodness.
Now, for context, when my dad died, when I was young, my grandpa's house was like the next house that we knew and loved. And he was my guy. Since I was young, he would tell me, bring your wife, bring your wife, bring your wife. And I would laugh, leave me alone, grandpa. I proposed March 23rd. Was supposed to take my wife to meet my grandpa April 10 or April 9th. He died April 8th or 7th. He died in my car. He was struggling with his health. He was 88, 89, so it's a celebration of life. But the way he went was me and seeing death literally face to face with someone. So, first time we had rushed him to the hospital in my car, he was fine. He was getting better. And then one night on a Sunday, my mom rang me up and said, Shola, we need to rush grandpa to the hospital. My mom wasn't living too far from me, so I rushed 5 minutes, picked her up, and as we were going, before I could pick my mom, I had a sense in my head, in my spirit, that grandpa was going to go that night. So I picked up the phone and called my now wife and said, I have a sense that grandpa is going today. I think it was how my friend had called. And I went, we picked him up, and life was sucking out of him. And as I was driving him to the hospital, the first thing I was telling him was, Grandpa, wait, I'm bringing my wife to see you. And life was going. By the time we got to his house to pick him up, take him to the hospital, my grandma was doing CPR on him. But you could tell that life was going out of him. But the strangest thing was, before we got to the hospital, which was last Ikeja, he had died. So by the time I got to the hospital and called all the medical professionals to come and get him, he was called BID or DOA, brought in dead or dead on arrival. So the people at the back who were with him as I drove and my mom was on the front said that life had gone out of him when we got to Mbolaji Bank Anthony, but they didn't want to tell us. So they wanted me to keep on driving. Now, when he died, I wept. My mom, once again, already strong because her husband had died when she was 34, 35. So it's as though, okay, been there. I was crying. And here's the point. I began to now think and say, the biggest difference between life and death is not a change in the human body. The biggest difference is something we can't see. It's the breath of life. When my grandpa died, his body laid on my back seat in my car was the same. Tall grandpa, same face, nothing changed, but his body turned cold. What changed? Life was sucked out of him. And then it began to make me wonder that the most important thing about life is what we can see. And in less than a split second, it can go out or remain. So if you ask what did it for me, like I said, it's a sequence of events, but that period taught me something. Around that time, there was a hymn that I kept on singing. And I did not know it was God preparing me for that moment. It's a popular hymn, but I don't know if you know it. I have found a friend in Jesus, he's everything to me. It's the fairest of 10,000 to my soul. It's the lily of the valley, the bright and morning star. It's the fairest of 10,000 to my soul. The best part, In sorrow is my comfort, in trouble is my stay. He tells me every care on him to roll. And so I was singing the song before then. I like the Yoruba version because I sing a lot of Yoruba hymns, and I just kept on singing. And on that night, it all just came crashing. And it was like, the biggest gift that God gave us or will ever give us is not a healing. Because no matter how healed you are, your body will still fail someday. It's not money, because no matter how much money you have, it will diminish someday. No wealthy man goes to the other side with the pack of cars that he's got or the money he has. But the biggest gift that God can ever give us has to be the promise of eternal life. Something bigger and greater than anything we can see or feel. And so that stirs up in me. And the fact that my faith is anchored on that, I think is very important.
Absolutely.
That's the greatest expression, in my opinion, of God's love. And that's why in great times, in bad times, in amazing times, and in not so amazing times, even though it might hurt personally, hurt physically, that's my greatest comfort. That He loves me so much that no matter how much life might seize now, there's still life beyond. No matter how much I might lose now, I have so much more to still gain. That's the greatest promise.
So beautiful. And so, I don't want to use the word inspiring because it's so true. I don't think we're trying to aspire to Maguire.
This is not the day for that.
Yeah, it is just the truth. And thank you for sharing. Thank you for opening up. Thank you for revealing layers of your personality.
By the way, all these things I'm telling you, it's the first time I've ever said it.
This is an exclusive interview on the Open Up podcast.
For context, I don't think anyone on social media knew that I lost my
Your
father-in-law
grandpa,
or my grandpa, stuff like that.
You know?
They are so happy. I posted a video the next
And
week.
that's why I decided to do this, because it's so easy to see people who seemingly are so successful, so happy, so put together, have everything seemingly in place, and to feel like you cannot relate to them, or your own personal challenges or life troubles is bigger. So maybe that's why you are going through what you're going through, and then there's the poo-hoo, whiny kind of syndrome happening. So I'm really grateful. I'm really honored, and I'm really happy that you spent time out of your busy schedule to be with me and to share everything. Like I said, peeling those layers of your personality from childhood to this moment. My mind is blown. Just so that we are leaving this on a happy note, what are we looking forward to from the Olusola Olaleye brand?
Oh.
Are we having like 20 more businesses?
No, for now, so what I just do now is serve as an angel investor in some ways. So I just invest in a couple of businesses, help
Come and
people
invest
fund
in
their
us now.
ideas. You say you be big woman now. I wonder.
We'll talk after.
Let's look for people in the grassroots that are looking for. How much if they give me 20 million now? Anyways, yeah, I'm trying to. I mean, there's that, but more importantly, there are a lot of projects. I mean, so my strategy consulting firm is officially launching next year.
Okay.
Watch out for that and all, and then a lot of other projects. Trust me,
In the works.
lot. But I mean, as a business consultant, I have quite a number of master classes coming up also, and then 1 or 2, 3 more projects. But yeah, a lot of more things will unfold in no time. But everything else, I'll keep being awesome and keep loving God and being a great guy to my friends.
Hey, chop knuckle. All right, thank you for coming. And this is where we actually wrap up the Open Up podcast. Thank you for joining us, Shola. I'm sure that you as well have been blessed. That was such a powerful episode. Please don't forget to like, to share, and of course to subscribe on this channel. And also check us out on Instagram and other social media platforms. And we are also on all audio streaming platforms as well. See you in the next 2 weeks. My name remains Amanda Dara, and this is the Open Up Podcast with Amanda Dara. Bye.
The Open Up Podcast Season 2 is brought to you by Credit Direct.